And now, ladies and gentlemen,
Put your thumbs up and say it's Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo, Tickety Boo, everything's Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo, son. Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo.
Hello and welcome to Tickety Boo. Today we're talking about a kind of childhood experience that's quite hard to name. Because on the surface, everything looked fine, but underneath, something vital was missing. Emotional neglect doesn't always leave bruises, but it can leave a lifetime of quiet self-abandonment. If you've ever felt invisible, unworthy, or unsure how to let people in, then this episode is for you. So, Iona, when you were growing up, did you feel seen in your family environment?
It's really interesting. At first, I'm like, oh, God, I don't know. And then I definitely did when I was small. Mm-hmm. And I mean, so much so that when my next brother came along, because I was the eldest, like I didn't want him there, quite frankly. So I was, as a sibling, I wasn't the nicest later on because all my parents' love went for, I had to share them.
Yeah.
We lived on a farm, so, there was a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
But I think the shift for me then became, I then started to feel responsible for my brothers because, as I've shared before, it was a very toxic divorce. And it wasn't that I wasn't seen, but I had to take care of everybody else's needs. So I wasn't worth it. My needs didn't matter.
So you abandon your own needs to take care of others. I think that's the key thing with this episode. When we talk about neglect, especially emotional neglect, it's not so much about what happened, it's more about what didn't happen.
Yeah, because definitely with my parents' divorce, my brothers got taken care of by my mum.
Right.
So I'm the eldest, and I've said before, I should know better. And then at my dad's, I was then responsible for my brothers. Yeah. So I kind of so I was sort of ignored in one environment, and then the other one was the sole responsible for my brothers.
Yeah. And parents who are there physically, but not emotionally, we don't actually realise how much that shapes us as we move forwards into our adult life, normally when we start doing the work. So what did you learn from when your brother came along and the way that you are, your own worth? What has it taught you about your own worth?
Well, that was really, that then I guess, thinking I wasn't as important as I thought. Not that, because I was the centre of I was the firstborn child, then I was also the first grandchild on both sides. Suddenly I wasn't. And I mean, I was young, so I was like 3 or 4, so it's understandable I felt that way, and I loved him dearly. And so then I started to feel maybe less important. And then later, as I shared, I had the experience with when my parents were going through the divorce and my dad wanted to know why I wanted to go with my mum instead of him. So again, it's like, so I'm not important. Then it's like, oh, my needs don't matter. This just proves it again and again. So it just adds fuel to the fire.
Yeah, I think it's that it leads you to a place why you can't figure out why you're so unsure of yourself and your place in the world, which leads us into things like comparatitis. We look at our friends and how they're doing and, never quite feeling good enough. And that is a really lonely place to end up, isn't it?
Yeah. How about you? How is this showing up in your life?
Oh, how long we got?
This is going to be a 5-hour episode, just joking.
I never had the ability to express emotions healthily. I never felt safe talking about things that were causing discomfort. I learned that the best thing to do was just to ignore it, bottle it up, brush it under the carpet, not do what we talk about, which was feel it to heal it. There was the whole thing for me robbed me. I don't like the word robbed, but I suppose taken away from me the opportunity of building, bless you, building an emotional set of language skills that helped me express what I was feeling. Like, I didn't feel like I could go to a caregiver and go, I'm really afraid of this. I'm feeling really uncertain about that. Now, sometimes it could be because somebody was really busy. They're like, oh, you're just being silly. Just get on with it. You know, you'll be fine. And other times it was because they were so wrapped up in what they were doing. I mean, my mum worked incredibly hard, single mum bringing up 2 boys. She worked multiple jobs to keep us in, you know, what I can see now was a fairly nice life. But there's a price to pay for that. They're not there.
Yeah.
So I was one of those kids from a very early age that was responsible for coming home from school, getting back into the house, making sure we did our homework, feeding me and my younger brother, putting ourselves to bed, and normally going to bed before mum was back home from work. A lot of responsibility for a young kid. And I had worries and concerns that I couldn't talk to my younger brother about. He was too young. He's not going to understand them. So almost been forced to grow up a lot quicker than I needed to.
And has it shown up in behaviours as an adult? How do you recognise it?
Anxiety.
Yeah.
All the things we've talked about in previous episodes. You know, there's a period of my life, chronic people pleaser, saviour complex, overthinker, fear of being abandoned. Yeah, it showed up in many ways. But, you know, as a kid, you adapt and you just have to learn how to survive that emotional neglect, don't you? Although you don't even, it's not in that moment you go, oh my God, I'm being neglected.
Children are incredibly resilient.
Yeah. You know, and I'm not saying my parents neglected me. This is more about what wasn't there. Somebody to offer me comfort and security at the time when it was needed. You know, you're very fine going to bed, carrying it in your mind and not sleeping that well and kind of moving forwards with it. And for me, as the older brother, I became like the father figure of the house.
I was going to say, how did this show up as your self-worth and your own identity?
Yeah, it was like, I've got all this one. No, that's not I've got all this responsibility, but big brother has to step up. So, you know, it led to that if I wanted to express emotions, that normally led to disappointment because there was nobody there to listen to it. That's been the good one. Not because I wanted to be the good one or the quiet one, because I definitely wasn't good all the time, but that was safe. But it wasn't really, it was creating a false sense of safe. You know, I thought being low maintenance made me lovable.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I have prided myself on being low maintenance myself too.
Yeah.
And also, and I see it now as a very toxic trait, hyper independence. That's where it came out for me. I'm good. I can take care of myself. I'm fine. I've got this. Not letting anyone in to help or support me because, well, they're not going to show up. Everybody lets me down. I need to take care of everybody. But also, I mean, if we think a lot about for anyone like the boss babe mentality, it's like, you know, alpha female, like, you know, getting on with it. And there's nothing wrong with that if you identify with that archetype. But I'm saying for me, it was a toxic trait because it was like not asking for help. Like, I have learned to ask people for help.
Well, in reality, it was your avoidance, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Creeping in, self-abandonment.
Yep.
Not meeting your own needs. Do you ever feel because of this, then this is a question to the viewers, but also to us sat here talking, that love is a big word, you know, we're not necessarily talking about relationships, we are talking about relationships, but relationships with our family, our friends, partners, and all the rest of it, that sometimes love can feel too much, even though it's the very thing that you crave. Like, it can be overwhelming or confusing or uncertain.
Yeah, I'm thinking from the hyper independence aspect. It's don't let them in. They're going to abandon me anyway. They're going to let me down anyway. So I just need, so really, I thought it was self-preservation, but actually it was me just building a wall up. It's like, no, I've got this, so abandonment of self, but also, and wanting help, but not letting it in. And also when you're not used to having, and I wonder for our listeners, yes, your parents may have been loving, like mine were, they did love me.
Yeah, same.
However, I didn't get that nurturing love always when I needed it. I provided it for my brothers, so I instantly made myself the caretaker of everybody else's needs.
And what we don't really realise is that we tie our self-worth to this unconscious identity that we've created for ourselves. And that is the real issue here, is this self-worth issue. Because when your identity is built on pain, you stay stuck there.
Yeah.
And it's really hard, I can remember questions like, why did this happen to me? It's not fair. And actually the shift, the flex, if you want to call it, if you want to flex, is not why did this happen to me? The shift for me was when I asked myself the question, what did I learn from it?
That's one of my favorite. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
What did I learn? What was the lesson in this? And I think it's so important because it just helps with the reframe.
Yeah.
My son used to get really annoyed when he was a young teenager, and I was like, yeah, but you could learn something from this. He's like, oh, Mum, what are you, like, he would get so angry that because he would still want to be in the moment of being whatever disagreement we were having. Yeah, I think it's really interesting. And I think I went from that in the early years, but then definitely I abandoned myself in this because, that lack of self-worth, looking for love in all the wrong places. I went to, I had an eating disorder. I went to alcohol. So I was trying to fill, there's that quote, trying to feed the hungry ghost. So I'm not feeling adequate. I'm not feeling enough. So let me challenge myself with food. For whether it was anorexia or bulimia, I started with one and then moved on to the other, or whether it was, misusing alcohol and drugs, just trying to fill that void, to feel love, to feel euphoric, to feel enough.
And that's the issue, isn't it? Because if you define yourself by what happened to you, you're absolutely screwed.
Yeah.
And that's where you start doing all those unhealthy coping mechanisms, the behaviours to mask, to take the sharp edges off. And the way out is through by actually recognising what's happened for you. As part of you recognising this identity that was formed as a protective mechanism to keep you safe, which parts of yourself did you need to divorce and let go of to break free from it?
It was the part of trying to take care of everybody else's needs first. So I had to let go of trying to be the sole caretaker. And then when I was rebelling, the identity became, Iona the party girl. And I had to let that go because then I found myself through having those connections, the party girl, always out, always meeting people, always busy being busy again, busy being sociable. And I had to be okay with being by myself. And it's coming back to that peace. Again, if you listen to our episodes like back to back, you'll see there's threads, there's themes that come up again and again because they're true.
You just absolutely nailed it. And it's something that I forgot, but it is so true. Part of my journey was becoming comfortable being alone.
Yeah. I love being alone now.
Yeah, but for a large portion of life, where there has been that emotional neglect, needs not met, a sense of being alone was terrifying. For me, it tipped into abandonment, not good enough. But actually, the big flex was actually going, I'm really cool being on my own. I actually, learning to like your own company, that was really sort of where things started to shift. And certainly our listeners with this is some of the stuff that happened to you might have been intentional, unintentional. But if you're sitting there waiting for acknowledgement or an apology that's probably never going to come, you're going to stay stuck in a world of hurt. And you're going to continue to punish yourself.
Yeah. I was just thinking with this awareness, it's about being comfortable being with ourselves and to feel all the feels. And no, but that's not to confuse this with when things are hard or challenging and we remove ourselves as a coping mechanism because our emotional needs weren't met.
Yeah.
That's actually, so anyone who's doing that, and they say that's a classic from people who grow up in the whatever generation we are, it's like, oh yeah, our emotional needs weren't met. That's why we go and we remove ourselves. That's different to going and enjoying time alone and enjoying your own company.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I would allow myself to go into situations and places and allow people to treat me badly. And that was okay as long as they didn't leave and abandon me. But I know that was just my survival patterns that were kicking. You know, I was so adapted to that. That was my survival strategy. That was just my unconscious identity. That's just what I did. So
what was the shift, or when was the shift for you?
I think that's a really good question. What was the shift? The shift was when I stopped blaming everyone else. If they just did this, if they just understood me, if they just treated me like this, and actually I was the problem. Because I was making the choices. I was putting myself in the spaces. Personal responsibility.
So for our listeners and our viewers, what advice would you give them if they're in that situation?
Look at the pattern. I've talked about this on a previous episode and it's really powerful. I spent a lot of time in resentment of way things went. People did things, said things, and didn't do for me. And an exercise I get my clients to do is to write down a list of people that you feel, and that could include your parents or your siblings, did you an injustice, came along and went wrong. And I wrote them down, and I wrote all the things under their names that I felt that they done, didn't do, it hurt me, and all the rest of it. And then next to it, I went, what did they come to teach me? What was the lesson from that person that I wasn't able to see? You know, some of the responses were like, should have walked away earlier, tolerated too much, you knew they weren't right for you, blah, 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 blah. And what I did once I did that was I learned that I didn't need to give myself, I needed to stop repeating the patterns, and I didn't have to apologize to anybody for wanting better or for wanting to walk away.
Oh, I think that's a powerful one. Highlight that one.
Yeah, it was huge. You know, I'd hear that old voice inside of me. You've been over dramatic. You've been too emotional. Don't go because these people will. You'll have nobody if you go. And I know that voice inside my head was just lying to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's the hardest bit. I need to be straight. Is the personal responsibility. Yeah, it's not your fault what happened to you.
Yeah.
But it is totally your responsibility to deal with the stuff that you carry through your life today. For you, for the people around you, because life does get a lot easier when you actually face the parts of you that you've not really wanted to look at.
Yeah. And also, I think it's the awareness as well, where you stay connected with people who weren't treating you kindly or compassionately. We need to also understand, for our listeners as well, we as human beings, we are born with an intrinsic need, a psychological need is just in our being to belong, to be in community, to be part of something and part of a group. And that's why we will sacrifice our own well-being to be part of that group. The thing is, we get to choose and change the group. We can make those changes. But it is like if someone's going, why do I keep doing this? Why? Yes, look at the whys, but also understand we're psychologically driven to connect with other people.
The thing is that the difficulty comes from if you spent a large proportion of your life not treating yourself well, you are just going to gravitate towards other people that don't treat you well because it's the norm.
It's what you know.
It's what you know. But I didn't realise at the time that I was actually really resilient.
Yeah.
Most people that come from emotional neglect or are actually incredibly resilient. And that's the flex, that you do have this resilience, but you've got to turn that resilience from surviving with old survival strategies to using that resilience to changing your responses, and going, what have I learned about my hardest experiences? What have they taught me? That voice in your head that says you're too broken to change. Yeah, that was a version of me that got me to where I am today, but it's not the version that's going to take me where I need to be. And
that's where we get to choose the identity.
Yeah.
And let go.
Yeah.
What did you have to let go of?
God, yeah. I had to let go of a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff, guilt. Guilt for some of the things I said and did, and I didn't like who I became. I didn't like who I was. I had to let go of versions of me that it was difficult to let go of those versions of me because I'd been me for that long. I had to let go of blame. Mm-hmm. I had to let go of frustration and anger that people didn't see my perspective. There was a lot of stuff I had to put down because you carry that stuff with you and it gets heavy. Yeah,
there's so many. Now I have the song from Frozen playing in my head.
Let it go. Yeah, let it go. You do need to let it go. But I think our human nature is they just need to see it from my point of view. They need to understand what they did to me. And the one thing that I've learned is even if that person did come along and go, do you know what? Yeah. It doesn't change what happened. And it's not an outside job. Yeah. This is not external. This whole shift is an internal thing. It is. It's something that you do.
Because we can't change the other person. We can only change ourselves and how we're choosing to show up.
We can't change the past.
Yeah.
But the one thing we can change is the future. One of the things you can start to think about is what would it start to look like in your life if you started to show up for yourself in the way that you needed people to back then? Because you don't need other people to do it for you now. You're not that child. You can show up for you.
Yeah. Something I have my clients do, particularly if they're struggling with this area, is instead of just going, what do I need in this moment? What does my inner child need in this moment? Because usually when we're getting into these repeating patterns, it's because we're defaulting to how we learned to survive, to cope. And so it's just asking yourself, what does little me need in this moment?
Yeah. And normally the answer is don't abandon yourself.
Yeah.
Constantly abandoning yourself is the issue. All the things that you were missing and you didn't get, they are available now today. You can actually make the choice today to just start giving them to yourself. And do you feel better straight away? No.
Yeah. And it's called reparenting yourself.
Yeah. And we've done episodes on that before. We've talked about it back then. And this is not a taking away from what you've been through. You didn't get what you needed back then. Mm-hmm. We get that.
Yeah.
And that wasn't your fault. But now you can give yourself the permission to give yourself what was missing. You don't need to stay invisible to stay safe. You don't have to abandon yourself constantly to be accepted. You certainly aren't too much. That's one thing that I've had to learn. Yeah. You're not too much. And you're not broken. You might be a bit splintered, but you can be put back together again. And you are someone who learned to survive, and now you get to learn to live life in a different way, but it starts by making a conscious choice that this must change. And that brings this episode of Tickety Boo to an end. As always, thank you very much for watching, and we will catch up with you in the next episode.
If you or someone close to you needs to access mental health support, please contact your GP. Or, if it's out with normal office hours, get in touch with NHS 24 on 111. Alternatively, contact the Samaritans on 116 123. All calls are free of charge from any phone. You can also find more support information on the Tickety Boo website, ticketyboopodcast.co.uk.